That's right. Welcome in. It is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down the biggest stories in District 5 and District 6, week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. We are also broadcasting live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. And so thanks for tuning in. My name is Brandon Baney. Let's bring in our East Idaho expert, shall we? It's Sean Kane. What's up, Sean?
Hey. What's going on, man? I don't know if you could smell it in the air, but it's conference basketball time for both boys and girls, and just you just kind of can smell in the air when it becomes conference time. The last few games here, the schedule is conference games, and it's kind of exciting. Everyone's looking to punch their ticket to state, and it's that time of the year.
You said it, and immediately I thought of and maybe it's because I've watched Monday Night Football a lot this year, but I can feel it coming in the air tonight.
Yeah, they played that for I don't know if you watch Hard Knocks, but the Hard Knocks in season with the Dolphins, it's been kind of a fun watch. They had that song in today's episode. It did not come for the Dolphins at all.
Weird. Yeah, it's almost like they had a really easy schedule this year, and that inflated them. Weird.
It's hard not to root for a Mike McDaniels, though. I don't know. I kind of like that guy, but yeah, I don't know. I got to find a team to root for, Brandon. Come on.
Yeah, Chicago Bears, so close and yet so far away. Well, we're going to start today's show here on the East Idaho Prepcast with some of the behind-the-scenes legislative stuff from the IHSAA, and then we'll dive into what actually happened in the arena, as it were. Sean, earlier today, the IHSAA, Idaho High School Activities Association, held their January meeting, and pretty big news was announced. Of course, we had found out recently that Ty Jones, who's been the executive director of the IHSAA for a long time, is retiring at the end of this school year in June. And so the search was on to find a replacement. Well, today, the board took it up to a vote, and a new executive director of the IHSAA has been named. It's a familiar name to people in East Idaho. Current board member and current Shelley superintendent, Chad Williams. So congratulations to Chad Williams, the new executive director of the IHSAA. He'll take over in June.
Yeah, July 1st, 2024. He's going to have to maybe move.
He will. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's, I think a lot of people is in the back of their minds of who is going to get in on that position. And I think, Chad Williams is a great person that I think will fit in right there. He's done a lot of great things at Shelley, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Kind of a new era. I can't think of a time when it wasn't Ty Jones in that driver's seat. So we'll see what happens. I feel like Idaho's gotten a little more progressive. We got shot clocks this year, those digital numbers above the backboard. It might be scary to some, but it's there. And so the more we can be progressive and kind of be up to date with sports in general, I think is always a great direction.
All right. Well, on that same note, Sean, the topic of state tournament expansion was also discussed quite a bit at the IHSAA meeting earlier today. So the question is, state tournament expansion, is it happening? The answer, not anytime soon, but at least they're talking about it. So
send out a survey.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're at that part yet. This is like, I think the first kind of, big talk we've had about it. And essentially, there's some concerns over travel. Some of the board members expressed, hey, we don't want to be sending, somebody from Kellogg to West Side. They didn't say that exactly, but I'm kind of using that as an example here. And I guess my solution to that, Sean, my solution here from 10,000 feet above is we could just rotate which region hosts the play-in games every year. One year it's in North Idaho, one year it's in the Treasure Valley, one year it's in East Idaho. So everybody's got to travel an equal amount of distance. And I think the kids, the athletes who we should be thinking of with everything that we're doing here, I think they would love it.
Yeah, that's been a discussion too. Why can't those playing games rotate? And then if you just knew like this year it's going to be close, this year it's going to be far, you just knew and it was set out. It's pretty easy to plan if you know, right? I'm like, if you know, you don't know if you're going to be playing in that playing game maybe until that game, right? Well, I mean, you don't, right? So you don't know, you can't, it's hard to plan. But if you know that playing game is going to be so and so, then you can definitely plan expense wise. I've never met a high school kid that doesn't like to travel and get out of school. So I know that's not the top priority, but if it gives us a fair shake and kind of rotates, and you get to see the different venues across Idaho, which is also, I think, a pretty unique experience as well. So that could be a good direction, or just make the tournament bigger.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we're talking about here is expanding it from, 8 teams or 9 or 10 that are competing for a chance to go to state via play-in game.
Yeah.
To like 12 or 16, maybe even, and so to me, it's pretty easy to pick 2 or 3 high schools in a particular region. And hey, we're going to stack up 4 games here and we're going to stack up 4 games here. And I don't know. I think it's something that could, if you plan it out and you rotate it equally amongst the 3 big regions in Idaho, I don't see why it couldn't work. We do it for football for the championships, right? It rotates all the time. And so I don't know. I think the travel hurdle is a one we can clear pretty easily, but they're going to, discuss it and look at it a little closer. So at least there's progress there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you're getting more opportunities for players to get to state, I think you do it. Like there's not going to be a coach, there's not going to be an AD that says, no, we're okay with our limited opportunities, right? I think they're going to be, they're going to make it happen. Parents, support groups, boosters, things like that. Those aren't the problems. We have to have the things in place and then we can tackle the problems.
Yep. And I guess you were right, Sean. They are sending out a survey. It's going to be sent out to athletic directors, principals, superintendents, kind of see what kind of reaction we get. Now, I'll say the last time a survey was sent out, over 70% of respondents voted in favor of one thing, and then the board just ignored it anyways. So maybe this survey will be a little different.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have to think about when you do a survey, a gut reaction of an AD or superintendent is going to be what's best for them, not best maybe for the district or best for the region, right? So when you fill out those, you have to take a step back and think what's best overall, which is so hard to do. It'd be hard not to say, I want what's best just for my school. But the problem is everything is interlinked and chained together. So if you change this thing, it's going to change that. So you kind of have to step outside, and hopefully, after this last survey debacle, we can, people can look at like what's the best solution and kind of find some middle ground, because, or you don't get change. You stay the same, but if you can find middle ground and work together, that's how you kind of end up moving those gears.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll keep an eye out on that. The results of the survey will be announced at the next IHSAA meeting, which is in April. And so if you're looking for a breakdown of everything that happened at the IHSAA meeting today, Sean, we've got it right at the top of the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Matt Harris, who used to be a broadcaster and
looking at it right now,
contributor to the website for IdahoSports.com, is now the athletic director at Ryrie, and he always does such a great job of attending these meetings. And you have to follow his Twitter account during the meeting because he is in real time. Hey, this is what they're talking about. Here's the info. I don't know how
pictures. He's got the pictures. He's got the agendas. It's great to get that live information. And because before is you kind of like, oh, they changed the rules. Oh,
yes.
Thanks for letting me know.
And so we kind of put it out, and I say we, Paul Kingsbury, our boss, kind of put it out there to Matt. He and Matt go way back and said like, hey, you're already there kind of reporting on the meeting. Would you mind like just writing kind of a summary for IdahoSports.com? And he's like, sure, no problem. So he did a really great job succinctly summarizing everything important that happened from the IHSAA meeting. So if you want to read that, it's right at the top of the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Well worth your time for sure. So yeah, thank you, Matt Harris from Ryrie, for stepping up and getting that done for us. We really appreciate it. Those were kind of the two big, discussion points. But there's more stuff you can read on the site, IdahoSports.com. All right, we got that bureaucratic, stuff out of the way, Sean. Let's get into what happened in the week that was in East Idaho sports. A couple of big basketball matchups. We will get to it right after this word from our sponsor, Sean. That's right. The East Idaho Prepcast is brought to you by No Vape Idaho. We'll be back right after this.
It's not like I'm doing drugs.
Nicotine can negatively impact the developing brain and make it more susceptible to other addictive substances. Students that vape are 3 times more likely to start smoking weed. And kids who share vapes can unknowingly inhale other drugs like THC, meth, or fentanyl, causing permanent lung damage, overdose, and even death. Be smart, don't start.
This is the East Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho on IdahoSports.com. Sean, we think about vaping and it's like, oh yeah, I got to take the edge off here. I just need a hit from my vape pen. Oh, I'm so relaxed. Did you know that vaping actually increases the levels of stress and anxiety in your body? It does the exact opposite of what many think it's intended to do.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of it in school as being a teacher at Century. It's a big a thing to get out there to students, and it's not great. And then, man, just the things you don't even know what's in it. You're like taking like metals and alloys and words I can't pronounce. So yeah, it's bad news, and that's a great sponsor, because you can't be an athlete and be vaping. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, you need those lungs when you're out there running and getting the heart pumping. And yeah, vaping is a terrible idea. For more tips, you can type in No Vape Idaho. That's no with a K, like the more you know. No Vape Idaho into your favorite search browser, and you'll find the website from there. But big thanks to No Vape Idaho for sponsoring the East Idaho Prepcast. All right, Sean, the big story last week. We recorded last week's East Idaho Prepcast right before this game happened. Preston at Pocatello at the pit. And I don't want to, toot my own horn and say I'm like a genius, but I said on the show last week, like, hey, all the pressure's on Pocatello, which is weird because it's a home game for them, because if you don't win, now you're facing the prospect of having to go to Preston in the rematch and beating the Indians at their place, which is almost impossible to do. Lo and behold, Preston comes out and gets a nail biter of a win, Sean. This was a fun game from tip to final buzzer.
Yeah, 51-50, and at the end of the game was just a roller coaster of emotions, right? You have Gage Ontiveros going for what's going to be pretty much a game-winning layup, traveling called, and just eruption, and Preston's got the ball back with 12 seconds left, and you think, well, Preston's got this game in the bag, right? 12 seconds. Ty Jones at the helm, well-coached Preston team. Well, Preston throws the ball away on the inbound. It was a miscommunication. It just goes into no one, goes right out of bounds. Pocatello ball, 12 seconds. Pocatello gets 3 good looks at the basket. The last one, a 3-pointer by Dre Contreras of the Thunder, and just falls short. Dre Contreras had 2, and I think Kessler Vaughn had one of the shots. No Bowie on that last second shot, which I was surprised. But they had 3 good looks, didn't go down, and Preston rolls out of the pit with a win and a little lead in the rivalry. Right? You have East Idaho pretty much controls the top 3 in the rankings. Hillcrest, Preston, Pocatello, and man, it's just gonna get more heated and more of a battle, but these are gonna be some great games.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand your analogy. You're saying Preston's kind of like a weed. They're just really hard to get rid of, hard to eliminate.
Yeah, I mean, they've just, they're a little younger than they have been in the past, but they just it seems like every player can make a 3-pointer, come with a play, and they had a hard time guarding Ontiveros down low. They're not a very tall Preston team, but they did a good job. And I think that'll be the difference maybe in the rematch is if Thunder can find to get Gage Ontiveros going a little more underneath, it'll be difficult. But yeah, Julian Bowie still had about 20 points and just too much team ball from Preston in that first meeting. But I mean, it could have won either way, and to give Pocatello a chance at the end is crazy, and it's crazy to think of Preston uncharacteristically throwing the ball away.
Yeah, and now the schedule for both of these teams is kind of interesting. Preston has all the momentum of coming to the pit and walking out with the win. They haven't played since. They won't play until Thursday night at Century. So another conference road game. So they will have had, 8 days basically between the Pokey game and the Century game. Can they keep that momentum going? Meanwhile, Pocatello, I think, pretty motivated to get back on track. They've played twice since they lost to Preston. And boy, they've won in pretty decisive fashion. They beat Shelley 77-45. They beat Highland last night 80-57. That was an eye-opener for me, Sean. Not that Pokey won, but the margin of victory, because Highland is a team that made state last year. Let's not forget.
Yeah, and I've seen Highland. They've got a good team. They've got some good players. Ridge Barrera, the biggest playing small guy on the court, and Owen Wild, and they've got a lot of guys that can shoot threes, and Cruz, Traora, which is a cool name just to say the least, down low, and if he develops a little more, he'll be good. But man, what a score there by the Thunder, out to prove a point, winning I believe 8 or 7 times in a row against Pokey. And now it's reversed on the football side, right? But as far as basketball goes, the Thunder have kind of dominated that rivalry.
Yeah, the Black and Blue Bowl basketball edition has belonged to Pocatello recently. And so with that Preston win over Pocatello, repercussions, not for anything that is super important, but the coaches poll and the media poll both went from Pokey 1, Hillcrest 2, Preston 3 to now it's Hillcrest 1, Preston 2, Pokey 3. I think that's the right order. I vote in the media poll every week. That's how I had my top 3, Sean.
Yeah, I don't think Hillcrest has been playing with a full deck really all throughout the year, and I think now that team is coming together and everyone's hitting the court, as far as I know, and it's hard. Like I've said before, you're the champ until you're not anymore. And Hillcrest beat Idaho Falls 90
to 40
last night. 90. I mean, anytime you can score 90 points, I think, 8-minute quarters, there's only so much time. I mean, 90 points. I think Hillcrest is in a good shape. Luckily for Hillcrest, Pocatello and Preston aren't in their conference. So I think Hillcrest will be fine. I think you could put whatever the week is, you could put either team in the first spot. I don't think it matters when it's all said and done. I think Hillcrest will probably be your number 1 seed, and Pokey and Preston will have one person or one team not happy.
Yeah, and here's the important context to remember, because you're going to look at Hillcrest and you're going to go 8-6. Well, boy, they must not be as good as they've been. They're 7-0 versus Idaho teams. All right, they're 1-6 versus out-of-state opponents. 5 losses to schools from California, 1 loss to Ironwood, Arizona, which is a really good team. So, yes, they're 8-6, but you got to remember 7-0 versus the state of Idaho. That's what really counts. Wins over Preston, Bonneville, Thunder Ridge twice, Skyline, Blackfoot, Idaho Falls. They're going to be just fine at state.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to argue that at this point.
Now, what happens for second place gets kind of interesting. Blackfoot and Skyline currently tied at 3-2 in conference play. Skyline got a huge win last night. They picked up a victory over Shelley 59-47. That had snapped a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That had snapped an 8-game losing streak for the Grizz. So Clint Cornish's team is 3-2 in league. Blackfoot is also 3-2 in league. Blackfoot won the first matchup at the Taj McGrizz 67-64. The rematch comes in the regular season finale, Sean, in Blackfoot on February 9th. I just get the feeling that game is probably going to decide second and third place.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Blackfoot started off really strong this year. This is a team that I think was on our radar, and not that they've fallen off, but you just have a conglomerate. I mean, let's not take anything away from the Shelley team, which is not bad either. And so it'll be, if Skyline wins, and then it'll be that conglomerate of all like 3-4, 4-3. It could go either way towards the end.
Yeah, and I should mention Shelley here as well, right? They're 2-2 in conference play. The two losses came last night to Skyline by 12, and then they lost to Blackfoot by 6 earlier this year. So you're right. They're right in the mix too. Shelley will play Skyline and Blackfoot each one more time. They have to sweep those, I would think, to have a shot at second, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then, just how District 6 always turns out. I mean, the seeds might not matter all that much, right? They just
they really won't.
Sometimes they just, who goes in and plays hard could be the biggest thing. You got to say Hillcrest is probably going to get that 1 seed without a doubt, and then after that, it's really going to be a battle who can play the best that night. I think. I mean, the seeds will be important maybe for some home court, but all these teams have just been beating each other up.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to take a quick stop down to the 2A basketball ranks here, Sean, on the boys' side, where we're starting to see maybe some leaders emerging, and yet, I don't know, maybe not. Let's start in the nuclear conference. North Fremont is 8-2 overall, 1-0 in league play. Firth is 7-6, and they are 2-0 in league play. And Sean, we're going to find out real quick, who's got the upper hand, because they play tonight in Firth.
Yeah, so Ryrie the preseason favorite in that league, I want to say?
No.
No.
I think Firth was, but it was very
Firth
jumbled.
Yeah, wasn't that's what I was remembering, that this was a very hard one to predict. And North Fremont was a powerhouse for so many years. They're always a very good team, but you're going to kind of have the same scenario here where you're going to have 3 teams really battling it out. And so this game, Ryrie versus Firth, could be the game that decides the number 1 seed.
Yeah, so Ryrie and Firth played last Thursday. Firth picked up the 76-59 win. The rematch comes on Saturday, January 27th in Firth. Firth and North Fremont tonight. And both are so well coached. Shannon Hill for North Fremont, Scott Adams for Firth has won so many championships in his great career. And then in addition to that, we think Firth is pretty good. Westside beat Firth to start the new year, 64-49. And as we kind of transition down to District 5, Westside picked up a big win last night over Bear Lake by 5, 72-67. And those are the 2 teams we're kind of looking at down there in District 5. So Westside kind of gets the opening salvo, as it were, over the Bears.
Yeah, and Bear Lake's kind of been a little more dominant on the basketball side, but this West Side team, man, you just can't look past them, right? You got Parker Moser, Crusade. You have these players that they've played together for a while, and I think it's kind of come to fruition. They were the younger guys, right? I think of the West Side team now as like the young guys. Oh, we're beating a team 52 to something, put them in. But now they're the juniors and seniors of the team, and they're kind of coming into their own.
6 seniors and a lot of those football names that we're so used to hearing. Eli Brown, Garrett Robinson, Ivan Campbell. Yeah, West Side, good, just athletes, good, solid, fundamental team for sure. And then the last league I wanted to check on the boys' side before we hit girls hoops, Sean, was at the 1A D2 level, the Rocky Mountain Conference, just because there's so many teams that it's always so fun to watch. It's like watching the stock market throughout the year. Water Springs and Rockland are each 2-0. Water Springs is 12-2 overall. Rockland 9-4. Mackey won their league opener. They're 1-0. They're 5-6 in league play. Meanwhile, you still have North Gem sitting there at 3-1 also. And Showban, never can count out Showban. They're 1-1 and 6-5 overall. Showban played North Gem last night, Sean. And North Gem came out with a 10-point win, 48-38 in Fort Hall. that was a big win for the Cowboys. North Gem's only conference loss still is to Water Springs, and they lost that game 57-43. Otherwise, they've beaten Showband, they've beaten Mackey by 5. So I don't know. Still a lot to decide here in this Rocky Mountain Conference.
Yeah, we'd been talking a lot about Water Springs and Rockland, but North Gem now kind of floating their way up as well. And you also have Mackey. It's a good team, and they've only played one conference game, so it'll be interesting one game that counts towards conference, but they've got North Gem coming up Thursday. Is that Mackey North Gem? That ought to be a fantastic matchup.
So we're gonna have a little separation on Thursday. You mentioned Mackey and North Gem are playing. Water Springs traveling to Rockland on Thursday as well. So we'll finally get some clarity on this Rocky Mountain Conference race here over the next couple of nights. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. All right, let's talk a little girls hoops here before we hit the door, Sean. Last week, the Thunder Ridge girls basketball team took on Bonneville in what was kind of a really cool fundraiser. They ended up wearing special jerseys for the occasion, and it all went to help fundraise and benefit a great anti-bullying organization.
Yeah, it was a parent set this up for bullying. They had some special jerseys, and then they auctioned off a flat screen TV, Kelly Canyon passes, and some other things to raise some money. And the money is going to go to building some benches at Thunder Ridge, so some students can have places to sit and chill out. And so yeah, just a nice little effort. And they made a good amount of money according to AD Travis Hobson. And the jerseys were like, I don't know if you're going to pull it up, they're kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. I've got too many tabs open, so it's bogging down a little bit.
It kind of reminds me of like a Phoenix Suns, but you do have that Thunder Ridge TR on there. It goes like yellow, orange, like blue flame kind of at the bottom, with the big stop bullying. And bullying, of course, kind of a nationwide problem throughout schools, especially with cyberbullying and all that. And just a good time to have some awareness students about that, and think about how your actions can affect others and make sure everyone's involved. But pretty cool that they're going to get some nice benches for the school out of that, and and just some good awareness, a little something different. You usually see breast cancer awareness or cancer awareness ones for volleyball and sometimes basketball, but something a little different and neat for the Thunder Ridge girls to do. And nice job by that parent organization to help get that going there.
Yeah, the organization is called Ballers Against Bullies. I love it. And so here I'm going to share some pictures from the Thunder Ridge girls basketball Facebook page. Here's the first photo. You'll see this little guy right here down in the bottom right corner, Sean. His name is Maxton. He's a first grader. He sang the national anthem.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Here's what the jerseys looked like. Yeah, very retro. And of course, it's got kind of the peace sign, whatever.
Yeah. Hang loose.
Yeah, hang loose. Yeah. So it looks pretty cool. These jerseys were pretty awesome. I thought that was pretty cool that they were able to put that together and get the jerseys there. So yeah, that's kind of what the uniforms look like. And like we said, very good cause, big fundraiser. Both Bonneville and Thunder Ridge kind of involved in this process, and so it was awesome. So way to go. Here I'll share my screen one more time. Here's little Maxton singing the national anthem right there.
That's my favorite part of PAing basketball games is when we have someone come in and sing the national anthem, or one time we had a student do the trumpet, just him by himself, trumpet national anthem was pretty cool.
Cool.
I like to see all those different students get to shine there too. It's always fun. We've had cheerleaders sing it. That's always kind of funny too. So it's good. It's really neat to get everyone involved.
That's awesome. Thunder Ridge is on a 3-game winning streak. They beat Bonneville in that Ballers Against Bullies game 53-46. Since then, they've beaten Idaho Falls. And then on Monday night, game got postponed from last week, of course, with the bad weather, but they beat Highland 44-16. Now the big test, right? Rigby comes to Thunder Ridge tonight, Sean. Rigby is kind of the heavy favorite, and yet Thunder Ridge wasn't that long ago that they were the top of the league. They haven't played Rigby yet this year, so I'm interested to see how this goes. I'm picking Rigby to win, but I'm very interested to see how Thunder Ridge plays against a top-notch opponent.
Yeah, you've got a Rigby team that's averaging 60 points and only giving up about 35 points. They're a good team, right? We know Rigby's really good. But like you're saying, kind of who's going to get that next spot? You have Madison, Thunder Ridge, and Highland. I think this will be a great test for Thunder Ridge to see what they can do. And, if they can keep it a low-scoring game, it might be close. But if you get Rigby out running and gunning, it's tough. It's tough to win.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. Okay, let's talk 4A hoops for a second here. High Country Conference, Sean. Shelley still leading the way, 16-0 overall, 6-0 in conference play. I think 14 of the 16 wins by Shelley this year have come by 20 or more points. So here we go, though, tonight on IdahoSports.com. Sean, you're going to be at this game for us. They're hosting Blackfoot. Now, the first time they played this season, Shelley won 66-38. But Ramey Odom is a great coach for Blackfoot, and I'm sure they will be much improved. They played previously on December 6th, so we've had, a month and a half since then that has transpired. This will be a fun game tonight, Blackfoot at Shelley.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think it's a game that if you're a 4A basketball player around the state, you probably want to tune in and watch. It might be interesting. You've got, in max preps, Shelley's obviously the overall number 1, but Blackfoot's ranked number 5 in max preps. So you've got a very, Blackfoot had one of the highest strength of schedules. So you got a Blackfoot team that's played hard opponents. Their conference is hard. It's going to be a fantastic matchup. And can you stop Shelley? I mean, they're just putting out huge numbers with Brindley Cannon and Mia Williams. They've just got so many people that can score. But if you can hold them, I think under a certain amount of points and keep it close, then you're in business. And we know Blackfoot is a team that can do that because they did it last year to Shelley.
Yes, Monday night, Shelley went to the Taj McGrizz and beat previously unbeaten in league play, Skyline 73-59. And so now for Skyline, their rematch with Blackfoot becomes kind of important, and the rematch with Shelley as well. They beat Blackfoot earlier this year to start the new year by 20, 63-43. Is it really that simple? It's Shelley 1, Skyline 3, or Skyline 2, Blackfoot 3? Or is there some fluidity to this? It seems, based on the results, pretty straightforward, but I feel like I know better.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to bet all your money on it right now, you might be poor. But I think it's tough. Skyline is definitely a good team. You got the Shea Shippen and the other Shippen, or it's just, I wanted to say Shea Shippen sisters because it was alliteration, but that's not right. But
Kaisa Shippen and Shea Shippen, yeah.
And that's just a good team. And right now, I think if you look at the standings and some of the scores, they're kind of clearly the second team. And Blackfoot started off kind of strong, and it's kind of, hit some bumps in the road. And maybe tonight that's where it starts to change a little bit. But I mean, I think it's going to be tough to go to the potato cellar and beat Shelley right now because they're firing in all cylinders.
Yeah, it'll be a fun watch tonight on IdahoSports.com for sure. And then I wanted to wrap up with 3A girls hoops. Sean, we are starting to get some clarification. We talked about last week, Snake River. They were going to play South Fremont. What kind of challenge would that be? They won by 10, 50-40. So South Fremont, I think we haven't been giving enough credit to. South Fremont played close with Snake River, lost by 10. And then Snake River also played American Falls for the first time, won pretty convincingly 41-27. So they're 1-0 in league play. And meanwhile, Teton up in District 6 is still undefeated, 17-0. They just beat Sugar Salem 64-46. They will play South Fremont for the first time tonight. Meanwhile, Sugar Salem, Sean, is looking at 0-2 in league play, and they're in last place. They have lost to Teton 64-46, lost to South Fremont by 3 last Friday, 49-46. So tonight's matchup between Teton and South Fremont is for first place in the conference.
Yeah, definitely for first place, and kind of definitely just bragging rights, right? Too, to be at the top of a very tough 3-team conference. In the Mountain River Conference. You got a young Sugar Salem team, but they're not bad. You have a South Fremont team that we probably haven't given a ton of credit to playing well, but Teton right now in 3A basketball, and they're kind of the top of the top, right? 17-0 and just keeping that going. So that's a great matchup tonight in that conference.
Yeah, Breanne Bailey, such a phenomenal player for Sugar Salem. They're going to be mad about that.
Oh no,
yeah, Breanne Bailey for South Fremont, 5'11" junior. They've also got Kensley Neville and Hayden Larson, Hallie Robles. They've got some really good Lily Christensen, some really good athletes on that South Fremont team. So I'm very intrigued to see how this game tonight goes. And boy, Sugar at 0-2 in league, but they're still 11-6 overall. Sean, it's like the bad guy in a movie. You better put him away and take care of it, because if you don't, they're going to come back to haunt you on this thing. So
yeah, that's what I would say. Sugar Salem's young, one senior on that team. And sometimes you're young and dumb, and you can go in and make things happen because you don't know what it's like, or you just play, and that'll be tough. No matter what, I think whoever comes out of that conference, because you're going to have to play each other. There's only 3 teams. There's no gimmies.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll have more data to break down on next week's edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. But Sean, I know you got to go get ready for East Idaho game night. Blackfoot at Shelley tonight on IdahoSports.com. Big thanks to everybody for tuning in to the East Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho. Enjoy the competition. Enjoy Tiger Grizz Wrestling this weekend if you're going to be checking that out this Saturday. One of the oldest wrestling meets in the state, Tiger Grizz. Once again, a lot of good teams from Utah coming up to compete this year also. So we'll have plenty to talk about on next week's edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. But until then, for Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on Idaho